Look at this. This isn't some distant science fiction outpost. It's real. This is La Rinconada, the highest permanent settlement on Earth, sitting at over 5,100 meters above sea level. Now focus your eyes on the rooftops scattered across the slope. They're mostly made of corrugated tin, dented, rusting, flattened into place by rocks to fight the wind. That cold blue tone you see, it's not a paint choice. It's all that's available. These homes aren't built, they're assembled from scrap. Follow the winding dirt path coming from the lower right. See how it snakes up, passing in front of each home like a lifeline. That path isn't paved. It's mud in the wet season, ice in the dry. Every day, hundreds walk it in silence. Women carrying groceries, men heading to the mine, children running barefoot, breath visible even at noon. Now look toward the center, where the fog begins to thicken. That's not just cloud. It's smoke. Toxic fumes rising from open mercury processing, an invisible danger hanging above the roofs. You'll notice faint figures, barely dots, moving near the center right. Those are workers, returning or heading back. Most won't live past 50. Above them, towering in the distance, those jagged icy mountains. They form a natural prison. No roads out. No highways. No escape. You're either here to mine, or you don't come here at all. And to the left, squint, just beneath the slope, you'll notice a darker block of structure. That's the main mine entrance. Hundreds disappear into it daily. Some won't return. This is a city where engines don't echo, because there's no traffic. Where roofs crack in the cold, and yet people stay. Why? We're only beginning to understand. This is where everything begins and ends, in La Rinconada. Right now, you're looking at the open mouth of a gold mine. But don't let the silence fool you. This pit is alive. The cracked wooden beams you see propping up the walls. Those are salvaged planks, nailed together by hand, reused again and again, each one soaked with cold and rot. Zoom into the center. That structure built from timbers and scrap. It's the shaft platform. Miners descend through that. No elevators, just wooden ladders and makeshift winches. The muddy water pooling below. That's a mix of glacial melt and toxic runoff, laced with mercury from the gold extraction process. Nothing grows here. Nothing lives here. Now shift your eyes to the top right side of the frame. Notice how the ground breaks off into a narrow wooden ramp. That's not safety tested. That's not engineered. That's how the miners carry out the ore, one sack at a time, across planks that creak under every step. On the far left, see that square wooden hut with a sloped top. That's a separation table, used for washing gold dust from silt. The process is rudimentary: water, mercury, hands, that's it. No protection, no filters. Bare skin meets poison. Look at the color of the soil, pale brown streaked with gray and black. That discoloration isn't natural. It's waste. Chemical residue soaked into the earth over years. And surrounding everything, in the distance, the silence of snow-capped peaks. The mine feels swallowed, sunken into the land. You can almost hear it breathe, groaning under its own weight. This isn't just a job site. It's a gamble. And yet, for thousands, it's the only way forward. This is home for tens of thousands in La Rinconada. Look closely at the walls, thin sheets of corrugated metal, patched together with scraps of plywood. Some are barely holding against the wind, bent and rusting at the edges. You can see where pieces of top have been nailed over holes, flapping like loose skin. Along the alleyway, clotheslines sag under the weight of faded shirts and trousers, some stiff from the cold air. The blue plastic sheet swaying in the center. That's not just a curtain, it's the front door for the family inside. Now, drop your eyes to the ground. There's no pavement here, only dirt mixed with shards of stone. Notice how it dips into shallow puddles, that's glacier melt and runoff from the mine above. Every rainfall turns these paths into thick mud. In the far right corner, a heap of broken boards lies abandoned, once part of a roof. Beside it, rocks and bits of trash pile up against the wall. There's no waste collection here. Everything either burns, stays, or gets carried off by wind. Look further down the alley. Houses stack upward toward the slope, climbing the mountainside like they're clinging to it for balance. See the tangled web of wires running from one shack to another. Electricity is improvised, shared between homes, spliced without insulation, dangerous but necessary. In the doorway on the left, 2 children stand barefoot, watching. Their feet are dusty, their clothes worn thin. Just ahead, a dog sleeps by a cracked plastic barrel, its fur blending into the dirt. And above it all, in the distance, the mountain looms. No trees. No green. Just rock and ice, pressing in on the edge of the city. This is La Rinconada's main market. Look closely at the stalls, they're not permanent structures. Just planks of rough wood balanced on crates, propped up with sticks, and covered with plastic tarps to keep out the snow. Some roofs are patched with sheets of corrugated metal, held in place by heavy stones so the wind won't rip them away. In the front, there's a tray of potatoes, rough-skinned, still dusted with soil. They're one of the few crops hardy enough to survive transport up here. Beside them, oranges piled high, their bright skin the only burst of color in the dull, grey morning. Follow the row of tables. You'll see lettuce, its edges already browning from the cold, and cabbages stacked loosely beside faded plastic baskets. Further down, a small pile of green coca leaves, a common sight here. Locals chew them to fight altitude sickness and keep their strength while working in the mines. The ground is a mix of frozen mud and slush, with shallow puddles reflecting the grey sky. There's no paving, just earth that turns to ice at night and melts during the day, leaving boots caked in dirt. Now focus on the people. Everyone is wrapped in thick coats and scarves, their faces lined from years in the thin, freezing air. Gloves are mismatched, wool on one hand, leather on the other. The woman in the center adjusts her vegetables with bare fingers, moving quickly before the cold numbs them. Behind the stalls, walls of stone and cracked plaster rise, stained with dampness. Some are draped with faded blankets acting as doors, others with torn posters curling at the edges. This isn't just a place to buy food, it's a lifeline. Every piece of fruit, every sack of potatoes, has been hauled up the mountain. And in a city where nothing grows, every bite is a reminder of how far people must go just to survive. This is the very edge of La Rinconada. The shack in front is built from stacked stone and rough planks, no insulation, no rail foundation, just enough to keep the wind out most days. Snow clings to its roof, melting slowly where the wood is thin. The door hangs uneven, scraped bare from years of frost and wind. Step past this point, and the ground drops away into nothing. The slope is so steep that you can't see where it ends. Below, clouds gather in the valley, swirling like slow-moving rivers of white. The mountains opposite rise dark and jagged, their peaks streaked with snow. There's no guardrail, no fence, nothing to mark safety from danger, only a narrow path, cut into the slope, winding downward. It's just wide enough for one person, and in winter, it turns to ice. On the left, just out of sight of the camera, there's a half-buried sign in Spanish warning of danger. Most here already know the risk. The man standing near the edge wears a thick coat and scarf, his breath visible in the freezing air. He doesn't move much, just stares into the fog as if weighing the sheer emptiness below. In this city, you don't have to walk far to find the limits of safety. Here, those limits are carved into the mountain itself. One wrong step, and you're gone. This is the inside of a miner's home in La Rinconada. The walls are just thin wooden boards, nailed unevenly, with gaps where the cold slips in. There's no paint, no plaster, only raw wood, darkened from years of smoke and dust. The ceiling is low, with rough beams overhead, some warped and splitting. Light filters through a single small window, its edges covered with scraps of cloth and cardboard to keep the wind out. Outside, the world is bright white with snow, but in here, the light feels weak, almost swallowed by the room's shadows. On the left, a bed sits against the wall, a wooden frame with a thin, worn mattress. The blanket is torn, its stuffing pushing out in places. Beside it, a small table holds a metal cup, its sides blackened from heating over a flame. The floor isn't wood or stone, just bare, compacted earth. It's uneven, with small mounds of dust and ash. Near the center of the room, a blackened cooking pot rests on the ground, a few faint curls of steam rising from it. The air is cold enough that you can imagine each breath leaving a mist. Against the far wall, old cooking pans and a battered kettle sit next to a bucket of water. A single worn poster, yellowed at the edges, hangs crookedly, a reminder of the mountain deity the miners believe protects them. In this room, every object has been used and reused until there's nothing left to give. Yet it's still home. The ground here is black and wet, a thick mix of mud, ash, and oily water that reflects the sickly yellow light in the sky. 3 women crouch over shallow buckets, their hands submerged in the cloudy, toxic slurry. They work silently, movements slow but practiced, sifting through the grit for traces of gold. The woman on the left wears a mustard yellow shawl over a red dress. Her head is wrapped in a matching scarf, pulled low against the cold. She leans forward, her bare hands moving through the water, skin stained from years of contact with mercury. At the center, another woman, wrapped in deep crimson, holds a clump of wet sediment in her palms. She studies it with a blank expression, neither hope nor disappointment, just the routine of someone who's done this 1,000 times. Her hair, in long black braids, falls over her shoulders. To the right, a woman in a turquoise poncho scrapes the bottom of her pan. A cream-colored scarf frames her tired face. Around her neck hang strands of imitation gold beads, the only bright thing in the scene. Behind them, black smoke curls into the sky from open fires used to burn away impurities. Scattered in the background, dented silver containers lie open, each holding mercury, their fumes mixing with the smoke. The air is heavy, metallic, and poisonous. Yet, they stay, because here, in the highest city on Earth, this is survival. The ice beneath their boots groans faintly, a sound swallowed almost instantly by the vast, muffled silence of the mountains. Jagged chunks of blue and white rise from the frozen ground like broken teeth, their edges crusted with a thin glaze of frost. A shallow stream, once a roaring vein of meltwater, now lies locked beneath a skin of cloudy ice, its surface streaked with soot and dirt carried here by the wind. Half buried in the ice are the scars of human presence, a tattered plastic bag, a rusted spade, the twisted frame of what might have been a mining pan. They look as though they've been caught mid-motion, frozen in place by the cold. The lone figure in the scene moves carefully, testing each step with a wooden stick. Their orange jacket is a bright defiance against the desaturated world, a slash of warmth in the cold expanse. A heavy sack hangs from their shoulder, its weight bending their back slightly as they make their way across the treacherous surface. To the right, a wooden signpost leans drunkenly toward the ground, its lettering worn and unreadable. Beyond it, the ice fades into a fog-thick horizon, and through that haze, far in the distance, the fragile shape of La Rinconada appears, a cluster of buildings clinging to the mountainside like it doesn't belong there at all. Behind it, the glacier looms, receding year by year, its retreat as slow and inevitable as the toll the city takes on those who live here. The ground here is a graveyard of human neglect, a blackened carpet of burnt plastic, charred paper, and melted fragments of things that once had a purpose. Between the mounds of twisted bags and shredded clothes, slick pools of green, yellow, and oily black water catch the dim light, their unnatural colors whispering of chemicals no one should touch. Scattered across the scene are the broken bodies of everyday objects, the cracked shell of a television, the rusting drum of a washing machine, the splintered frame of a chair, each one a quiet reminder that waste doesn't vanish, it just migrates here. 2 vultures stand in the middle of it all, their beaks jerking and tearing as they pick through the heaps. They seem almost out of place, like they're scavenging in a land too far gone even for them. A small figure moves in the distance, a child in worn-out boots, the rubber peeling away at the toes. They hold a stick, poking through the refuse with slow, deliberate movements, searching for anything worth keeping. Around them, the air hangs heavy, tinged with the stinging tang of burnt plastic and rot, and above, thick storm clouds push down on the horizon, making the whole world feel smaller, trapped under the weight of its own poison. Farther back, on the slope of the hills, tin homes cling stubbornly to the rocky earth. Their walls catch the last dim light before the storm closes in, as if even here, life refuses to completely surrender. The desks here are scarred with years of use, their wood splintered and warped, corners chipped from restless hands and the weight of elbows pressed in concentration. A thin film of dust covers their surfaces, softening the outlines of scattered papers, some torn, others curling at the edges, as if waiting for a lesson that never came. At the front, The blackboard dominates the wall, its surface faintly ghosted with chalk from lessons long gone. The faded outlines of continents still stretch across it, South America in green, Africa in ochre, their borders smudged but still recognizable. Below them, a few lines of chalk writing cling stubbornly to the board, nearly illegible, like a whisper from the last teacher who stood here. The walls, half painted in a weary blue, hold curling posters, a hand-drawn chart of the human body, a calendar frozen in 2020, its pages untouched. Near the window, someone scrawled geography in uneven, colorful letters, now faded under the slow crawl of time. Through the glass, fractured by cracks and smudged with dust, pale daylight seeps in. Outside, you can just make out the shape of a hillside dotted with scrub and stone. The cold light gives the room a quiet, brittle stillness, as if the air itself is waiting. There is no hum of electricity here, no screens, no flickering bulbs. Only the echo of what this place once was, a space where children traced maps, mouthed words, and imagined a world far bigger than the mountains that hold this city in place. The road here is a ribbon of mud and shadow, carved by countless footsteps and the occasional rumble of a truck. Deep ruts glisten under the pale spill of moonlight, their edges hardened by frost. The moon itself hangs heavy above, casting silver light across the jagged silhouettes of the surrounding mountains, while thin clouds drift lazily across its face. The homes lining this narrow street are cobbled together from corrugated metal sheets, their surfaces dented and scarred by years of wind, cold, and rain. A few doorways glow faintly, warm pockets of light from bare bulbs or flickering candles. Most windows are dark, their shutters drawn tight against the biting air. On the right, a bundle of white sacks leans against a wall, catching the moonlight in sharp contrast to the rusted panels behind them. On the left, a woman in a vivid red headscarf walks slowly down the road, her figure haloed by the yellow glow of a dangling bulb. She carries a small bundle, her steps careful in the uneven mud. Behind her, the lights fade into the distance, swallowed by darkness and the sheer quiet of the night. Overhead, a web of power lines stretches into the distance, sagging slightly between poles. They cut across a sky thick with stars, bright, unblinking points against the deep black. Here, there is no hum of nightlife, no clamor of traffic. Only the wind moving through the metal walls and the faint crunch of boots on frozen earth. The footpath is hardly more than a scar cut through the town, a winding strip of frozen mud mixed with scraps of plastic and tin foil. On either side, corrugated metal walls lean against each other like tired shoulders, patched with whatever their owners could find, cardboard, plywood, even old campaign posters. A barefoot child walks ahead, his steps cautious, as though the ground itself might give way. Women in bright shawls pass slowly, their hands tight around plastic bags of food and supplies. Above, tangled wires sag between rusted poles, feeding light to rooms barely bigger than closets. In the distance, the path tilts upward, disappearing into the pale mist that clings to the mountain, toward the place where the mines swallow daylight. So yeah, that's La Rinconada. Inhidden took you on a deep tour, so deep like you're present physically in La Rinconada. You loved it, imagine what's next.